Okay, thanks everybody for coming together today. So obviously this session is to cover the GX6000 in a little bit more detail and hopefully answer any questions that you guys may have still remaining about it. Okay, so we're going to cover some features first. Of course, the monitor is up to 6 gases, 4 standard sensors, LEL, O2, H2S, and CO. And there will be 2 smart sensors for the PID, infrared sensors, and super toxic sensors. Okay? And the PID will have a library of over 600 VOCs that can be tapped into and selected and looked at. Obviously, there's an internal sample pump. New features that this unit brings to RKI's offering is a man-down alarm, an LED flashlight, a panic alarm, and of course 180-degree auto display rotation. So that will definitely set this unit apart from the 2012 that we have, in addition to the PID, obviously, and some infrared capability. New features: this lightweight, high-impact rubber boot, ergonomic design, fits the hand comfortably. I like it. It's a little heavier than 2012, but I think it feels really good in the hand myself. It does have an IP67 protection rating, so obviously this will apply to the unit that is not concerned with the inlet fitting or the exhaust fitting. Okay. Operates on 14 hours on rechargeable lithium-ion batteries and 8 hours on alkaline batteries. There are 2 different packs for the unit that can be used for those purposes. Looking at the control panel, which is decently sized, we've got some differences there. There's the little flashlight bulb that shows the LED flash capability, and you have the panic button being shared with the shift down arrow button, and also a lock feature for locking the display's orientation is joined together with the display button as well. And functionality is very similar to the 2012, and we talked about these new additions already, of course. LCD display options. Looking at the LCD screen, we do have a little heart that flashes in the upper left-hand corner. So if it's flashing, that indicates a normal operation. That means the CPU is functioning properly. And you have a little fan icon that will be twirling on the upper right-hand corner of that bar, and that shows you that the pump is operating properly. And when we look at the gases themselves, we of course can see the gas designations, the ranges, or the current readings, I should say, in this particular illustration, the units of measurement, and then the peak bars, scales to the right of each gas, which is a function that can be turned on or off, by the way. Okay? And that will display all 6 channels at once, if that's what you want to do. There's also a single gas view that shows 1 channel in large scale, and you can auto scroll or manual scroll. There are settings for those functions. And auto rotation, so that if the instrument is being worn on a belt and it goes into alarm by the operator, they just have to basically lift up the bottom of the instrument and then tilt it toward them, and the display will rotate 180 degrees so that the display is right side up and they're reading the characters properly. Sensors. Here's a graphic of the cover removed from the back of the unit, so you can see a rubberized gasket assembly at the top, if you want to call it that, and then there are the sensors below that in the unit. So you have on the right-hand side the LEL sensor, the CO sensor, H2S, and O2, which have orientations very much like the 2012 and 2009 do for mounting them in their wells. And then the smart sensors will go in the left-hand side, obviously. The PID will go in the top section, or closest to the LEL sensor, and then the super toxic sensors or infrared sensors can go in the bottom one. When the PID is being used, it has to go in that first slot at the top, or that first sensor well. If the PID is not being used, then all the other sensors can go in either one. The unit does have the intelligence to properly identify and locate each sensor that's being used. So the PID, having the ability to monitor for low ppm levels of hydrocarbons where absorption could be an issue, that has to be first in the flow path, basically. So that's why it's important that it be located where it is. And here's some part numbers. Basically, the standard 4 are sharing the same sensor as the 2012 and the 2009. And then the smart PIDs, or rather the PIDs, electrochemical sensors and infrareds, are designated by color coding. So white is the PID, gray will be the electrochemical sensors, and black will be the infrared sensors. And incidentally, some of these sensors are coming out in the future.
I got a quick question for you, John.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Was that you, Tony?
No, that wasn't me. No.
I think it was John Foster.
Oh, John Foster. Okay.
I think it was John Foster. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. You guys have was there a question? Okay. I guess we're not getting the audio at the moment.
I actually have a question, John.
Okay.
If that PID is not in that slot, will the sensor fail when you turn the unit on? If somebody puts it in the wrong slot?
No, it won't.
Yeah.
It will not. It was originally that way, and we didn't like the fact that it went into fail, so you can actually put it in the wrong slot. The only thing that's going to happen is you may lose some sensitivity if you have some really heavy, sticky hydrocarbons. So it's optimal to put it in the right in the top slot, but it's not life-threatening if you don't.
Okay.
All right.
A couple more questions. You want to Tony?
Yeah. Let's see. Have we had any instances where the unit switches display modes from landscape to portrait? I lost that. Sorry.
Where'd it go?
And freezes. I haven't heard of any. Actually, I don't believe the display goes to a landscape mode, but it stays in a portrait mode. But it just reverts completely 180 degrees opposite. So, but I haven't heard of it freezing. Have you, Bruce, at all?
I have not. No. Okay. Tony, you said that you powered the unit down and powered it back up again, and it stopped doing that.
Yes, that's correct. I did that, and it did seem to clear. It happened a couple of times when I first got it, but it hasn't exhibited that again. I was just curious if that happened to anybody else. I kind of got like a black screen, or a full LCD screen was lit up, and had to power it down, pull the battery, and then reset it, and it worked.
Okay. Interesting.
No, I haven't heard that.
Okay. So next, John Maslowski says that he was told we can use 2 PIDs in this unit. And does the position matter, high and low? I don't know. Bruce, do you have an answer to that?
If you were going to use 2, and I believe you can, you would want to put the low range in the first slot, because obviously that's where you want the greatest sensitivity.
Yeah. And as far as the 2 agreeing perfectly together, they may not, because if you're in low ranges, they may not agree if you're below 50 ppm, for example.
Right.
So the customer would just have to realize that. Okay. We'll go ahead and continue on. The PID will have a standard calibration to isobutylene. So that will be the typical industry standard calibration gas. And then the electrochemical sensors will detect SO2, 0 to 6 ppm, NO2, 0 to 9, HCN, 0 to 15, ammonia, 0 to 75, and also a 0 to 400 for a higher scale range. And then chlorine at 2 scales of 0 to 3, and another sensor at 0 to 10 ppm. So as we can see, the asterisks denote the sensors that are currently under development right now. Okay, about a February availability date. SO2, NO2, and HCN are currently available as far as the electrochemical sensors go. The infrared sensors, 0 to 5% by volume for CO2, and then also 0 to 5,000 ppm and 0 to 10,000 ppm will be the ranges for CO2. All infrareds are currently under development right now. Some will be available in, I believe, February, certainly by February. January, okay. And some in April, right, exactly. So, yeah, probably the higher ranges are easier to do. Those will probably be available first. and then the lower ranges which require more sensitivity.
Methane
Yeah.
later.
And methane is later. So the HC will be first in terms of the infrared sensors.
5% CO2.
Okay. All right, power supply. As I mentioned before, you have alkaline batteries available. 3 AA size alkaline batteries will fit in the alkaline pack. So as we can see, the pack can be opened and the batteries can be exchanged as needed. There's also a rechargeable pack, a lithium-ion pack, which will give you more than 14 hours of operation. And that pack can be charged as installed in the unit, or you can actually take the pack off the unit, drop the pack in the charger, and charge it by itself, basically. And here's a pictorial of the docking station that Bruce will be covering in some detail a little bit later on. In general, the docking station will be connected to a single PC, and up to 10 units in total can be connected, but I think there was some discussion about 2 banks of 5, actually. Bruce will elaborate on that.
No, you can have all 10 connected together and run off. There's 2 different chargers for the docking station. We'll go over that in detail later because we're going to have a separate session on later today after John finishes. We'll go through the docking station. But yeah, you can have up to 10 together.
Are we still looking at availability in December, or would you bump that up a little bit?
No, that's what we're thinking now. The hardware is done, and we have some hardware, but there's a lot of work still to be done on the firmware and the PC programs.
Okay. Here's a quick reference card as part of this PowerPoint, which if some of you haven't used this PowerPoint yet, this will be a good tool for you to use with the distributors and some key end users. And this diagram shows just the component locations, 3 alarm LEDs. The infrared communications port is right below the keypad. And on the back, you've got the flow chamber cover and chamber below that, and the battery pack cover as well. Okay, calibration and maintenance. Okay, back to normal op screen. You get into the cal mode the same way as the GX 2012 and GX 2003 and Eagle, so we're very consistent in that. Pressing and holding the downshift button, and then press the display button. So that was the, let me hit the reset button. That was the panic alarm. So you actually, if that's activated, which is going to happen in real world life, you don't want to wait too long. So basically you want to press that and quickly press the display button. Okay, so there's your cal mode. All right, so we'll go down and do air cal here. Press power enter. Okay. I'll press the air key. Hold the air key again. Adjusting 0. Release air key. 0 adjusted. Bob actually pressed the button and selected auto cal, which is exactly what we wanted to do anyway. So now we have a submenu here: concentration, gas select, and then escape. So we want to basically move the cursor to the concentration, which it is. And I'll press the power button there. And basically it's just showing us the concentration of the gases that will match the cylinder, and should match the cylinder, of course. And if you want to change any gas, you can do that right here. So a cursor is at methane right now. If I wanted to change that gas value, then I would just press the power enter button. Now the value is flashing. I can change the value to whatever it needs to be. We'll go back to 50% LEL for our methane, lock that in. Okay, end. Okay, and you just do the same for each gas. So now I'm going to use the downshift key to drop the cursor all the way to escape. Okay, back to that submenu. Now I'm going to lower the cursor to gas select and press enter. And once again, verifying that the gases are what they should be. They are. So I'm going to press power enter again. Okay, and now it says apply gas. So we'll go ahead and do that. Sorry about that. All right. So we'll let that basically climb up and stabilize. And you guys notice right now there's 4 gases being displayed, the standard 4, even though I do have a PID in here. So there's 5 sensors in here. But it's going to show you the standard 4 first. Okay. So we're at 50 CH4, 12.1 oxygen, 24.5 H2S, and 48 ppm on the CO. Normally, we would definitely flow this a little bit longer to make sure it is, in fact, stabilized. It's very close right now anyway. So I'm just going to go ahead and press enter. Okay, end. And shows you what the cal values are now. Okay, then we're back to gas select, which I'm going to press power enter right now again, because there's still the VOC sensor. And then I'm going to press the down arrow key to bring up the VOC. There it is at 100 ppm. Press power enter. Okay, there it is. The gas is still flowing all this time. So I'm going to press power enter to make the adjustment. End. Okay, now it's calibrated to 100. Okay, now we are done. Disconnect the gas. We're back to the sub menu of the calibration menu. And I just want to simply go to escape now. Now, ordinarily, if you don't want to hear the alarms, just go ahead and let it run like this with the alarms deactivated. But if you go quickly to escape, you'll probably get some alarms, likely. Okay, now single cal is very simple. It's just taking 1 gas at a time. And you could also...
I just want to mention something really quickly, guys. The reason John was able to do the 4 sensors plus the isobutylene right away was because we're using our 5-gas mixed cylinder that has the standard 4 gases plus isobutylene.
Good point. So if we had 2 cylinders, if we had a standard 4 gas and then the separate isobutylene cylinder, so at the conclusion of the 4 gas is when you have the opportunity to switch your cylinders to the isobutylene and then continue in the menus the same way that I did. Okay?
Now, is this like the rest of the other 2 platforms where, like the 2012, where if you don't calibrate all the sensors, it won't reset the date?
That's correct. Like the 2012, you have the option of having the date set by the standard 4 sensors or by all the sensors. So depending on which setting you have will decide whether it updates the calibration date if you do all sensors or just the standard 4.
Now, on that VOC, is it because, does the lamp require it to be calibrated with 100, or can you use 10 ppm to calibrate that lamp, or is that prescribed by Ion Science?
You can use a different value, but that's what's in our 5-gas cylinder, and that's also what's in our standard single-gas isobutylene cylinders.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
right.
So Sarah asked the question at CSU. She has 10 ppm. Can she use that?
Sure. She just has to either use the single cal mode or change the auto cal gas value to 10 ppm for the PID.
Okay.
10 ppm is always what Ray Systems use for their parts per billion unit. It's just going to make it extremely more accurate at the bottom end.
Right, and that's 10 ppm is what we use for the low-range sensor.
If I can make a comment on the low-range sensor, we really need to let them know it's 1 part per billion to 50 parts per million. They look at it 0 to 50. It really doesn't tell them that it is a parts per billion one.
Well, it does read out in parts per billion, not parts per million. It's
right.
0 to 50,000 ppb.
Yeah.
Right, but we need to let them know that because it'll bring their attention to that low range sensor is a parts per billion. Right
That's
now, really a lot of people don't. Also, on the parts per million, when we say up to 6,000, we need to let them know that it starts at 0.1 part per million to 6,000. We get asked that all the time. Does it read, in what increments does it start at? 0.1.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on calibration? Okay. We'll go ahead and continue then.
Oh, Daryl asked a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Daryl, you asked a question about the oxygen calibration.
Yes.
You can't go below, or actually you may be able to set it less than 18% or higher than 18%, but there's a good chance you're going to fail the calibration. We don't recommend anything lower than 10% or higher than 18% for the oxygen.
Okay, what was the low range?
10.
Okay.
If you, and that's if you're doing a 4-gas calibration. If you're only
So you could not put a 100% bottle of nitrogen on there and calibrate it down to 0?
No, you can, but you have to do that in the single cal mode.
Right. Okay, so you can still do that. Okay, got you.
Sure. Yeah, if you're doing a single cal, you can set it pretty much anything less than 18.
Right. Okay.
All right. What we'll do now is we'll go back to the PowerPoint because we'll pick up with some. Let me go ahead and turn the unit off right now. Okay. So going back to the slide presentation here, we remove 4 screws on the back of the upper back panel of the unit, and then that will enable you to take the back off and expose the sensor well. Lost control here. Okay. So once you get the pack off, you can see the rubber gasketing assembly, and that will contain the filters. So you've got the H2S removal filter at the top over the LEL sensor, and then just below that to the right, the charcoal filter for the CO sensor. Okay. And once you remove that gasketing, you'll see the sensors themselves.
Back one.
Okay.
It shows you a better, wherever you had a better view of the filters.
Right.
It's further on.
Oh, is it further on?
Okay.
Oh, okay. There should be one right there.
Okay, so to the right, there's the assembly of the gasket with the filters on it. And then once again, the sensors in the unit, and where the smart sensors would go to the left. And if the smart sensor is not in there, there's a dummy plug. A dummy plug is where there is no active sensor. So that's standard operating procedure. It's a little portable. Okay. Yeah, here's a good representation of the gasket and where the filters go. There's the part numbers conveniently for you guys. Okay, pump replacement, very similar to the GX 2012 and the older 2003. You remove the top portion of the case and then simply pull it off, and then you have the pump, which is up toward the very top of it with a very short flow path. And there's a connector to it that connects to the board.
Where are we at?
We're on pump replacement slide. Okay. And the exploded view, basically the major components disassembled from the unit. So pretty simple to get down to that level. And then the lithium-ion pack, like the other packs, quickly identifiable by the battery contacts. So if you don't see the battery contacts, then you know it's an alkaline pack. Okay. Any questions on the components, or those components, or any components at the moment? Okay. So, yeah, go ahead.
I'm looking at your instrument, and it shows those 10 holes across the top. And when you put the rubber boot on, obviously it covers those 10 holes. What's the purpose of those at the top of your monitor there?
Oh, these little white.
If you look at your monitor right now, look at you got a little 10
Right.
of them, 2 on top of
Oh,
each.
right. Yeah, I think
So
it's just it looks like a speaker.
Yeah, with the
Yeah.
it doesn't really block it.
Does it?
It sort of points it out. If you see the boot,
Right.
got a little angle there.
put your rubber boot on, it covers all of that.
It doesn't seal it though.
It covers it, but if you notice that part of the boot, it's raised up so that you leave some space so that you're not muffling the buzzer. It still protects it from anything getting on those openings, but there's enough space above the buzzer to let the sound project.
Right.
In addition, there's a hole in the boot in that area.
Right.
True.
Buzzer.
Yep. Okay. Okay.
It doesn't quite seal over if you look at that. It's kind of
Right, exactly.
open. Yeah, it goes out.
Right. Okay, that's good. All right, so we'll go ahead and do the user mode here. We'll cover that first. Let's see, maybe we should try the PowerPoint slide here. Here are instructions for the user mode. I know we're facing glare. So basically, to get into the user mode, we are pressing the up and down arrow keys together. I don't know if you can get this smoother out of the way here. Okay, and then turning on the power button, pressing the power buttons. So very much like getting to the setup mode with the Eagles, rather. All right. So mode select is user mode and the maintenance mode. So we'll look at the user mode first. I'm just going to simply press power enter. Okay. And right now it comes up with date. Here we can change the date. Next is date format. So you can make it month, day, year, or year, date, month. Something that you have several options. Okay. I'm going to scroll down again. If you guys want to look at something in particular, definitely let us know and we can get into that function. Because if we go through every single one in depth, we're going to be here for a long time, as some of you have probably already discovered. Configure the channels. Basically, when you get into this mode, that's probably worth looking at. Configure the channels. So you have channel number 1. Let's say we wanted to change the order of these channels, channel number 1 with channel number 3. So the cursor's at channel number 1, so I'll press enter. Okay, now channel CH4 is flashing. Okay, then I'm going to drop the cursor down to H2S and press power enter. Okay, end. Okay, and now the reverse. So channel number 1 is now H2S and channel number 3 is CH4. So whatever channel you select initially will start flashing. The second channel you select is going to swap out basically positions with that particular sensor. So we'll change it back the way it was. Okay, get H2S flashing, drop her down to CH4, press enter. Okay, and then we're back to our normal ordering. So that's what that function is. Okay, I'll just drop it down to escape, the cursor down to escape.
Hey, John, why would you do that?
You could do that if you wanted to have one, say you're most interested in H2S, maybe your application, that's the one you're most interested in, you could have that so it shows up as the first one on the screen. I think when you're in the singles mode, right, then when it's scrolling.
Yeah.
So if you're in the single, then you can put it in the single mode view, and when the display's scrolling, that one will show up first. It's just a feature that somebody might want to do if they're really particularly interested in one gas for a particular time they're using the instrument.
Okay.
I could see where it worked for channel 5 and channel 6. So if they were plug and play sensors in there, but the other 4, yeah.
Yeah, it's just a capability that has, the Eagle 2 has that ability, that ordering ability as well. Okay. Then
I can't say that a lot of people use
right.
it because we don't get many questions about how to use it, but
right.
It's there if you have somebody who wanted to use it.
And in terms of languages, at least currently, there's English and Japanese that are within this language function, so there's only 2 selections right now anyway. And then the ROM sum, if you go into that, you look at the ROM number, which is the program version number, and the sum is the file checksum of that program. And password can be set up and activated or not activated. Right now it's not activated.
Is there an automatic backdoor valued like 1994, the savior?
Yeah, it would be for the user mode. So I go into password right now. It's off or on. It's generally 006, and it certainly is that for the maintenance mode. I haven't tried to set up a password for the user mode.
006?
000.
Yeah, we'll look at that right now. In fact,
three zeros and a 6, so it's basically the instrument model number backwards.
Right.
Like it is on the 2012. It's 2102.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to start measurement again here. All right. So right now you notice that I'm at normal mode, okay, and it says mode select normal. If I use my up or down arrow keys, I can select leak check mode, which because I activated leak check mode in this instrument earlier, so I do have the opportunity to do that, okay, when you start it up. All right, so we'll just go back to normal mode, okay. And then it's going to go through its various diagnostics at this point. But that's not what I want to do right now, so I'm going to turn it off. And we're going to go into maintenance.
Bar hole probe mode?
Say again?
Does that have bar hole probe? Does it have an option to activate bar hole probe?
It does. There will be bar hole capability, but to have bar hole capability, you have to have a % by volume sensor, and those aren't available yet. So this unit is smart enough where you won't even see it, actually. You can activate it in the setup mode, but you'll never see it anyway because those sensors aren't available yet. With some of the older models, you could select it and it would fail if you try to go into that mode. So until those sensors are available, you won't be able to use bar hole mode. We can use leak check mode, and as I said, this one's activated for that. So right now...
Okay,
yeah, go ahead.
Is that the menu you go into if I want to select ammonia for the PID? Because there's like 3 menus on this instrument.
Yeah, there's several different things. We'll definitely cover them. We'll definitely go through those.
That's in the display mode.
Yeah, that's in the display
mode. We haven't gotten to that yet.
Yeah, we'll show that to you. We'll go into the maintenance mode right now. So basically, you get into it the same way as we just did. Press and hold the up and down arrow keys. Press the power button with the unit off. And then we're back to that screen that we were just at. So basically, we're going to go down to maintenance mode this time. Okay, and then press enter. Now, here's something I want you guys to definitely remember because it's pretty important. You can enter factory mode also from maintenance mode, or from the maintenance label, I should say. What mode you go into depends upon what password number you put in. Okay, so 0006 will get you into maintenance mode, and 1994 will get you into factory mode. But we'll go into maintenance mode first. So right now it's set up for the back door 006. Let's move that over. Okay.
John, did you access the screen from the user or from the maintenance?
From the maintenance.
Okay.
Right. Exactly. So you can see the top black bar, it says maintenance. Yeah, truncated there, but it's maintenance, yeah. And we have the dates, once again. Some of these things will be similar to the user mode, but most of them are different. Again, you can change the date, obviously, here. We can change the date format, just like we mentioned before. Gas calibration, you can do a gas calibration from here, like the 2012. Bump tests, you can also do that from here. Cal setting, we can go into that. And here's a submenu here. So there's actually 5 submenus in the user mode. Now let me just find my notes here real quick. So gas calibration is basically the first one where you have auto cal, single cal, so that's obvious there, and air cal. And then this actually would be the second submenu capability in this unit, and which is the cal setting, where you can set the cal reminder, the cal interval, the cal expired action, and the cal check gas. So the cal check gas is either, let's go down to that, take a look at it. Okay, let me go into that. So cal check gas is either all gas or 4 gas. So it would be set for center 4 gas or for a PID or the electrochemical sensors. should you have those configured. Okay, so I'm just going to put it to all gas right now because I do have a PID in here. Okay, then we'll go down to escape and press power enter. And that gets us back to the main maintenance menu again. And then the next is bump settings, which is the second submenu capability. So we have bump display. Bump display, what that means is basically if I turn that on, that means that bump is going to come up as an option in the display button function when we go through all that. So there's several settings that you can actually have appear or not appear when you're going through the display button function from the normal operation menu, or normal operation screen, I should say. Okay, and bump parameters, take a look at that. Gas time is 30 seconds. The check is 30% of the cal value plus or minus. So that's the variance that the bump is going to allow. And the cal time will be 90 seconds. So if you fail a bump, it will calibrate. But when it calibrates, it's going to just add 60 seconds of cal gas to that, calibration time, I should say. So the total time is going to be 90, actually. Okay? And then right now I have auto cal on. So that means if the bump fails, the unit will automatically initiate a calibration. Okay? As long as the gas is flowing there and you haven't touched anything.
What is the
amount
of time you can use for bump and cal?
What's that?
What is the smallest parameter that we can use for bumping and calling?
I haven't checked. I haven't tried that. See what's in the screen here, but
you can try it.
Yeah, let's take a look. Let's go back up to gas time. Yeah. Okay. So it looks like 30 is the minimum.
And on the calibration?
Yeah, calibration, so on this one, let's take a look. It's going the other way. It's like 90 total. So 60 for the application of the gas. Because remember, we're in the bump function right now. So, yeah. So it looks like 90 is the lowest.
So you'd have to
total.
check. I think if you go to the cal time, you can change.
Right.
In the cal.
In the cal setting, exactly. Okay. So let me lock that in. Okay. Scroll down to escape.
Anyone has a question there?
Any questions? Yeah. Who's got a question? Okay, so we can set the bump reminder, the bump interval, how often obviously you want the bump to be activated, and bump expired action, very much like the other instruments. Cannot use, confirm to use, basically, okay, or ignore basically as well. Bump check gas, and then escape. Okay, we're back to the main maintenance menu. Alarm setting, we'll get into that. Okay, so we have alarm points, alarm latching, alarm silence. Okay.
Hey, John, at each one of those parameters, is there a similar function where you can make it display in the display key and then turn off so it doesn't show up?
You mean turn off from the display function?
Yeah.
Or I don't think so.
No, there's only a few things you can actually do that.
Right. Yeah, and once it shows up, it's going to show up. Yeah. So you have to come back in this mode and turn it off.
But not everything has that capability. The bump display is one of the few things that you can, like you can see the ID you can turn off, but there's not many things that you can take out of the display mode.
Now let's go to cal setting. I think we talked about that earlier. Okay, cal setting. Okay, cal reminder, cal interval, cal expired, cal check gas. Okay, all gas. Okay, that's the same.
On our standard 4 sensors, 90 days is our recommended calibration cycle. What is it for the PID?
Our default
yeah.
is for 90 days
Yeah,
for everything.
You're right. It still is.
Okay.
Okay,
But
here's the
isn't it
pump off.
true that when we have this, the different testing that is done with our unit, they bump test it daily and calibrate it every 30 days. So if someone really wants to get technical on this, almost every unit on the market is bump tested daily and every 30 days calibrated if it's UL, CSA, or ATEX. So you can tell them anything you want, but if you're sticking to the standards of UL, CSA, or ATEX, doesn't it state in their testing that it's bump tested daily and calibrated every 30 days?
CSA does, yeah. The UL does not, and as far as I know, I don't believe ATEX does either, but anybody that has a CSA approval, that will be their recommendation to bump test it every day. Which really only applies to the LEL sensor if you read the actual CSA standard, but most everybody applies it to the standard 4-gas sensors.
Okay. Next on the menu here is the pump off display. So pump off gives you the ability to turn the pump off, particularly if you're going to have the unit on for a while, you want to save battery. Let's say your battery voltage is dropping, but you're still in an area where you don't want to turn the unit off and off, or you just don't want to turn it off and on for some reason. And you can actually turn the pump off and reduce the consumption of the power on the unit. And for the display there, that function will show up in the display function where you can turn it off and on from the display function. That's one of those items that you can control from there.
So you turn the pump off and it's a diffusion instrument.
No, it's not functioning if you turn the pump off.
Right.
That's only there to allow somebody to save power.
Right.
When they're not actually using the instrument, but they don't want to turn it off.
Does the screen go blank, or does it indicate that it's not monitoring?
Yeah, it does give you a message on the screen.
Do we know anyone that actually uses that?
Never heard of it.
I think in the bar hole mode that people might want to use that because they only are taking a test when they've got the thing down the bar hole, but they don't want to turn it off in between.
Okay.
I don't know why anybody else would.
I think somebody else asked. Wasn't it one of the other international companies or something that asked for that?
Somebody did.
We didn't actually ask for that feature, but it was put in because someone else asked for it.
Okay, next is ID display. So that's very much like the other units, and it will show up in the display function if that's activated. And I do have it activated on this one. Backlight time, language, lunch break, very similar to the Eagle 2 and Eagle 1. Or you
2012.
Yeah, the 2012 as well, right? Auto 0, okay. It's either on or off. Demand 0, on or off. The 0 follower, get into that. 0 follower right now is on for these sensors, okay, but they could be turned off for various reasons.
What the 0 follower does is it corrects for negative readings. If the sensors drift below 0, it will automatically correct for that.
And 0 suppression, center that. So right now it's 2%. Right now it says 0 for H2S and 2 for the rest of the sensors. So typically 2% 0 suppression is the default. And what that means is typically it keeps the units reading 0. If there's a little bit of sensor drift occurring, that's less than that range, a 2 or 1, then it will just be suppressed to read 0. Okay? In fixed systems, that applies to the negative range as well. If they read negative, they'll also be suppressed to read 0.
Question, Bruce. With that suppression there, we in leak check, does that mean it hides that 0 to 1,000?
No, there's no 0 suppression when you're in the leak check mode.
Can we do that?
I don't think there's a setting for that, actually.
No.
No, when it's in the leak check mode, it assumes you want the most sensitive test capability, so it doesn't have any 0 suppression.
Okay. Next is IR.
Question.
Yeah.
Bruce, if we set that CO to 0 suppressed, will there still be the deadband on the sensor?
No, that's what that means. Is the 0 suppression is basically the same as a deadband. So if you turn that to 0, then there's no deadband for that particular sensor.
Okay, so there's not a capability of that on like the 2009. We've not been able to get the Port or the 2012, right?
Right. No, on those it's hard coded at I forget what the level is, but it's not changeable. The Eagle 2 and this instrument are the only ones where you can actually change those values.
All right, Tony, talk to me about the Port Authority. Thanks.
Yeah, you're right. That came up with them. They were, for some reason, they wanted to see extremely low levels of CO, and they objected to us having the 0 suppression. So yeah, you could go back into them with this instrument and be able to read right down to 1 ppm for CO.
That's great.
What it does, Daryl, the way the 0 follower operates is if the instrument goes negative for a period of time, and I think it's 1 minute, or it knows that a negative reading is not possible, so it'll bump the reading back up to 0.
I got you.
All right.
And John's asking a question, and I think, John, I think you're right, and I think that is the default for the PID sensor, is that there's the 0 suppression is 0.
Yeah, it has a very low detectable level. Yeah.
So you can set the PID to 0?
Yes. You can set any of them to 0.
Okay.
Yeah, you just if you do that, you may see a little bit of fluctuation.
Sure.
The humidity changes, yeah. But anyway. Okay, next on this menu is IR auto range. So just get into that real quick. So auto range is a capability for.
One thing on the PID, I remember that Riken. There's no reason to have any 0 suppression on a PID. You have that sensor so you can read low levels, and it does say you can set it to 2% or whatever, but it's always 0, even if you try to set it to something. Yeah.
All right. So here, the next one, IR auto range. You can select either auto range or low range, actually. Confirmation beep, ketone. So we've been listening to this ketone all along here. I can turn it off right here if I want to. So that's that function. Inert mode. So you can turn the unit into inert mode or not. Now you notice that this is in the maintenance mode here, not the factory mode, whereas the Eagle 2, that function is in the factory mode. Okay, so a little bit of a difference there between the two units. Leak check bar hole mode, this is where you activate that, and since there is no % by volume sensor in there, we actually cannot activate the bar hole mode, but the leak check mode is actually active, as you can see, leak check mode. Okay, so other options would be bar hole mode, leak check, both of them basically. Okay, and then off or leak check mode, back to leak check mode. So I want to keep that. Okay. Normal mode is not an option in that screen because normal mode is always going to be available, always. Okay. Bar hole time. You can select the time for the bar hole measurements. CO display. CO display here will give you the ability to have CO readings also in the leak check mode and controlled from the display function. Man down. Right now I've got man down. Actually, this is another submenu. Man down, panic. Okay, so let's look at man down first. Man down is off. If you're not moving this unit around and it doesn't move for various time parameters that you have preset, it will go into alarm. I think there's two warnings and one alarm.
If you have that.
If it's activated, right. So for the purposes of demoing, it's always a good idea to turn it off, obviously. Otherwise, it would have gone off many times by now. All right. And then the panic alarm is on. You just have to hold this shift panic button right here that my finger's on. And when you're in normal op mode, just press that and hold it down, and you will get your panic alarms.
Tony's asking about the time, the man down time. That's the next item on the menu, Tony.
Right. Yeah, let's scroll down to the warning one time and get into that. Okay. So right now it's 60 seconds. So you can change that.
The default is 60.
Default is 60. I'm not sure what the highest range is. 60 seconds seems reasonable. Because if it's too short, it's going to be a very big nuisance, obviously. And warning 2 time, take a look at that. That is at 75 seconds. And then the alarm, which is really goes bonkers, is 90 seconds, I believe. Take a look. Yeah, 90 seconds.
So those have always got to be, warning has got to be less than alarm, which has got to be less than alarm. Right. Sorry, warning 1 has got to be less than warning 2, which has got to be less than alarm.
Right. Yeah.
Are these alarms 90 decibel?
What's that?
Are these alarms 95 decibel?
I don't know. Actually, good question.
Is that on the spec sheet?
It should be on the spec sheet, but
we're checking right now. Yeah, Mike's got it.
Oh, does he? Okay.
The alarm is 95 decibel, says on the spec sheet.
What's that?
On the spec sheet, it says the audible alarm is 95 decibel.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
All right. Log setting. So here's another submenu item. Log interval. You can clear the log in the display function if that's on, and you can have it overwrite or stop. Overwrites the default, and then escape. Back to escape. Flow adjust. Here we do the flow adjust. Is basically it's very similar to the GX 2012. Okay. What we're doing, does it? Let me do the flow adjust here. I can kind of fake it a little bit. So let's get into that right now. Okay, flow adjust right now. The readings are 33 at the top, 15 at the bottom. We want to get as close to 1500 as we can. So let me just see how much closer I can get there. Okay, so that's about as close as I'm going to get. All right. So I'm going to press the power enter button now. Okay. Now the pump comes back on, and what you need to do at this point is put a flow meter to the unit, and the setting is going to be 0.2 liters per minute, not SCFH, it's in liters per minute. So 0.2 LPM plus or minus 1 LPM. So I don't have that with me right now, so I'm just going to put my finger over it, just bog it down, and I'll press power enter.
Is that
when you put your finger on there, what are you trying to find or try to set it to?
You don't set it there.
Right.
There's no setting for it. That's just the flow rate that you're now establishing as the low flow alarm point.
Right. So
you don't actually change the numbers will change by themselves because they're a reflection of the flow rate that you're seeing, and then you press the enter button to confirm that you want that to be the new low flow alarm set point.
Right, and that obviously put restriction to the pump and set a low flow restriction level as far as the differential pressure switch goes. But it's not that was not the correct way to do it. Definitely, you want to use a flow meter in liters per minute. Okay.
With 2003, we never used a flow meter, or at least I was never instructed to. With the 2012, we were.
That's
Are you
correct.
sharing with me that as this one, the 2003 should have used a flow meter as well?
It would give you a better setting. Yeah. The problem with blocking the flow is now you've got basically the most insensitive setting for the low flow. So you could have a pretty low flow, maybe that you wouldn't realize unless you actually looked at the flow with a flow meter. So it's
right.
better to have it a little bit above the absolute no flow from a safety standpoint.
But we can reset it if it's causing a flow fault that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's if you're in a pinch, you can
right.
do what John did just
right.
until you have access to a flow meter if you want to just get it out of low
right.
flow.
ROM sum number, I explained what that is, allows you to go into that function. The password, here is where you would actually set up the password for the maintenance mode if you wanted to, and right now it's backdoored to 00. 06. Restore
You say
defaults.
that's a backdoor, so regardless of what we put in, the 0006 is always there.
Yeah, no matter. That's right. If you put in another password, you can still get in with the password you've set up or with the 0006.
Okay. Then back to start measurement. Okay. So that basically gets us back to that screen. I'm going to go ahead and turn it off again.
John, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
When you're in normal mode, how do you switch from normal to, say, leak check or to bar hole?
Right. When you're in normal mode, what you want to do, Don, is press. Yeah, I'll just show it to you. Let me turn it back on here. Oh, sorry.
I think it's a little different than the 2012.
It is.
Because of panic.
Right. So we'll just let it go through its diagnostics mode and get to the normal operating screen, of course. Okay, alarm 1, alarm 2, STEL, TWA. And I activated user ID and station ID. Okay, so there we are at the normal operation screen. To get to leak check mode, we want to press and hold the air button and then the display button, okay? And hold them down until the screen changes. That line up here?
I think, no. You have to, yeah, there you go. So that's what.
Oh, right, yeah. And this is the screen that you get to. So it's going to bring you to the screen where you can then select the leak check mode. So we'll do that now. So that's, yeah, it's not going to take you directly into leak check mode, but it's going to take you to the screen where you can select to go into leak check mode or go back into normal op mode again.
How long do you have to hold those two buttons before you get that change in the screen?
It's about 5 seconds.
Yeah, it's longer than the 2012. So here you can see now we're in leak check mode. Okay, full scale 5,000 ppm.
And that was supposed to be air and then display button, correct?
Right, right. And once you're in leak check mode, you can select different full scales by pressing the display button as well. So I had 500 ppm, and now I'm at 1,000, now 2,000, and then 5,000. So those are your range options in leak check mode. Okay. So we'll go back to normal op mode again here. Yep.
Apparently there's something in my menu that's keeping me from being able to access that.
You may not have the leak check turned on.
Oh, that's probably all it is. Yep.
Right, yeah, you have to turn it on.
You got to go into
the maintenance mode
to turn it on.
Right.
I've turned on leak check and I can access it. I've turned on bar hole and I cannot.
Hey, John,
okay, so now we'll go back to normal op mode. And we'll go into the display function buttons, or functions rather. Okay, so now we're back to normal op screen. So if I press the display button, it gives protection, and if we get into that, we can see that it gives you a warning, no LEL alarms if the catalytic sensor is disabled. Right now it's enabled, okay? Yeah, what question is that?
Yeah, you can turn, yeah, John, that was the, in the maintenance mode, there's an item that says CO display in the leak check submenu, and that's where you turn the CO sensor on or off when you're in leak check mode. Now, the sensor's always on, but whether you're turning on whether or not it's showing up on the display.
Okay, I pressed the display button again and went from the protection to peak. Let's do it again here. There's protection. And it times out. If you don't press buttons soon enough, it'll time back out to the normal display, just like all the other units do. Okay, so there's peak, there's STEL, your cell readings for your H2S CO and VOCs. Basically, toxic compounds will have a STEL and a TWA associated with them. Okay, alarm points. Okay, you can say yes to enter, no display. Okay, operation time is showing you that. Date and battery, type and voltage. Okay, we see that. Log remaining right now is 155 hours, so that's activated. Log clear is also activated, so we can clear that or not. Pump off, again, here is where you would turn the pump on or off, or off or on. User ID, station ID, and user ID or station ID would not show up here if I had not activated them to do so in the maintenance mode.
Is this where you set it?
That's where you turn it on, yeah.
Is this where you enter the data?
You don't enter the data there. You have to do that with the from the setup program. But once you have data entered there, you can select from your list of user or station IDs that you put into the instrument. But
when you say setup program, you talking about linking it to your computer?
That's correct.
Oh, you can't.
Okay, let's get back up to
the only user IDs I have are Manny, Bob, Bruce, and Katie.
Yeah, that's because that was I'm not sure the history of your unit, but that would have been programmed by someone. But you can do that with the setup ID. I'm sorry, the user setup program allows you to enter in those IDs, stations, or users
through the computer.
Through the computer, yep.
Okay.
Okay, let's go back up to where we timed out at, and that's the record data display. Right here, record data display. So this is basically for snap logging is what this function is for. If you want to do some snap logs in data. Okay. No data, okay. Peak bar, right now it's on. Gas display. Okay, let's go into that. You can display all gases on your display, or again, set to auto scroll or manual scroll. And if you go to the scroll functions, then, yeah.
On your peak bar, is that
yeah?
If you turn that off, is that supposedly taking the bar off of the main screen?
Right.
It does not.
It does not.
It doesn't take the bar off. It just takes off whether or not you actually see a bar when the readings go up and down.
Yeah, that's a good point.
The bar is always there.
Yeah.
But if it's off, you won't see a change in the bar when the readings change. If it's on, then you'll see the little bars go up and down as the readings change.
Yeah. So the scale is going to stay there.
Right.
Okay. Turn yours off and let's see if oxygen goes away.
I don't know if it's on now. Was yours on?
It's on. Yeah.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's get it off.
And that's a good point. Even when it's on, the only way if you don't have any readings, the only thing that shows the bar is the oxygen.
Yeah. Okay. Display. Invert select. So here's where you can select the invert display. Okay, right now it's on. And you can turn that off too as well. Select PID list. Okay, here's what we do need to look at for a bit here. Okay, I'm going to press enter to get into that. So the PID list is alphabetically prompted right now. And right now I've got my cursor at B. So any compounds that start with B that are programmed are going to be in here. Right now I'm at benzene. So you've got a lot of things in here. Benzoic acid, benzonitrile, all kinds of stuff in here.
So when the reason it was at B when John went into that mode is because he had set this instrument up to be set up for benzene rather than the standard isobutylene.
Right.
So whatever you set it to, when you go back into the mode, if you want to change it, it's going to start out with whatever you've got it set to.
Let's go back again.
Are there any plans to put that on the display?
Yeah, we have asked for a firmware change to make that easier to access and also easier to see what you've got selected. And they've agreed to do that. We're not exactly sure how they're going to do it yet because they're looking at different options, but we agreed that we didn't like the way that operated, so we're going to make it so that it's much easier to find out what you have selected if you do select something other than isobutylene.
So this example here, here's benzene, so it's number 31 of the list that's in here, and C6H6 is the chemical formula for that, and the response factor is 0.46. I just timed out of it again, but anyway, so it's isobutylene times 0.46 is going to equal benzene. Okay, let's get back over there again. So you guys can see, obviously, those of you that have gone through this, there's quite a bit of menu stuff to this unit. And in training, I think I'm going to allow 90 minutes for distributor training for it. Okay, so LCD background is the next function. And then back to normal op mode.
Hey,
any
John,
questions about that? Yep.
When you're in your PID screen over there, go back to your PID select.
All right. Let me get in that again.
One thing I have found, which I'm sure everybody else has found as well, if you go instead of, obviously wherever the cursor is where you were last, but if you go to enter,
yeah.
If you go to
recent.
if you go to recent,
right,
it'll show you the last one that's top is what you've chose.
Right. Exactly.
Well,
and then the one before that was isobutylene, the standard one. Yeah, that's right.
So that's a good point, Todd.
How many can you store there? Because I have about 5 or 6 in mine. In that recent.
I believe it's 8.
Okay.
It's either 8 or 10. Yeah, it's either 8 or 10.
How do you get them in the user list? The first one's the user list. If you click on user list, there'll be some listed there as well.
There's 30 you can put there.
Okay, so Mike says there's 30 that you can put into the users list. So yeah, you'd have to put them in there yourself. And they'll stay in there.
That?
I think you have to use the PC.
That's right. Yeah, Bob is correct. You have to program those with a PC control software. That's right.
Okay.
Yep.
You can select them from the list of 700 or 800 that are in.
Yes, that's exactly right.
So you could save your favorite ones in there that you use all the time, or
right.
you can keep 8 of them in your recent.
In the
select.
recent. Yeah.
So you could create your own mini user list in the recent list without using the computer, just by going into that mode and selecting them.
Okay, there's one more thing we just need to take a look at, and that's just briefly. I'm sorry, say again?
I say when tying to a computer, what versions of Windows will operate?
I think it'll work on everything, including Windows 10. I'd have to check and see if we've actually checked Windows 10, but I believe we have.
Okay, now we're going to go into the factory mode. So once again, I've gotten into the maintenance or the user mode screen with the unit off, pressing up and down arrow keys, holding the power button, and then that gets us back to that screen. So now I'm at maintenance, press enter, and now I want to put in 1994. Oops. Move that one.
Start over.
Yeah.
Start over.
Yep, you'll start over again. Just like the other units, if that happens with the other units, you got to start over again. Okay. So I just got to slow down a little bit, make sure you don't go too fast. Okay, so there's the factory mode. So some of the same things as in the maintenance mode, so we'll touch upon the differences. Go down to gas combinations. Here's where you turn your channels on and off. Okay. HC select is CH4 or hydrocarbon. Log time display, again in the display mode setting. CSA for Canadian Standards Association. We can activate those settings here. Alarm points, flow adjustment, you can do that. Some of these values are the same. The A to D values are here. They're not in the maintenance mode. Save default, LCD contrast, factory default, and then start measurement. Any questions on this? There's really not a whole lot of reason to go into the factory mode for most people, except for to take sensors offline that they couldn't ordinarily do for most everything they would need to do in the maintenance mode. Oh, sorry.
I think you can do that in the regular menu mode, because I only went into 0006 to turn on PID.
Okay. Any questions from anybody on what we've covered so far?
I still am not able to access my bar hole mode. I turned them both on, but
yeah, you can't, Don, because the bar hole mode can only be accessed if you have a volume sensor in there. Yeah. So since that sensor is not even available now, you can turn on the mode, but it'll only show you leak check because you don't have the right sensor.
Right.
Good.
So in that sense, yeah, the unit's smarter now than the other ones used to be. You
smarter
than me now.
All right. I had a question, Bruce. Any chance of getting that HC option instead of just CH4 or HC, LEL, so that it just says a big LEL on there? I get some users that just
not show CH4 or HC.
Just say LEL.
Right. Just show a big LEL.
Well, it always shows LEL. It's just if you look at the screen that John's showing you right now, that CH4 can be changed to HC, but you can't get rid of it totally. It's got to be one or the other.
Yeah, and I wouldn't want to get rid of it totally. I would want to replace it. Well, I guess I'm getting rid of it totally, but replace it with just a large LEL. I have users who ask me, hey, can it just say LEL? Just like on the PID channel, they want to just see PID, not VOC.
And I'm not sure you might be able to pick PID. I'm not sure about that, if that's available on the VOC display names. You could put in a custom name, or can you? I can't remember if you can actually. But yeah, you definitely can't just get rid of it.
Okay. Just a thought.
Yeah. Okay.
Hey, John, you see you turn your bar screen off, and you're still reading it over there on the oxygen.
Yeah, I see it up there. Of course, it's.
Did you actually turn it off?
Yeah, I did turn it off.
Really?
Breathe on it.
Bruce, did you say you could actually put another gas in there where the LEL is?
No. You only have two choices, HC or CH4.
Okay.
It didn't show it on the CO there.
That just seems stuck on that O2 sensor.
Yeah.
Strange, like they should turn that off.
I wonder if that's a bug.
Yeah, we'll check into that in more detail, obviously.
Right now, excuse me, John, the only way to do it is by sending it back here. But the plan is to be able to do it with the IRDA cable, and We're still working on that so that you could do it in the field. We do, but they haven't tested it yet.
It takes like half an hour.
Oh, does it? Is that what we tested? Okay. So yeah, you can do it with the IRDA cable. It takes quite a bit of time. We haven't put together the instructions yet for how to do that, but we'll put together instructions and send it to you guys. And then if you have an IRDA cable, you'll be able to do the update yourself.
Any other questions on the unit itself? Okay, guys, I'm going to turn it over to Bruce now, and he's going to touch upon the data cal station and any other data logging.
I'm sorry, I got one very quick question.
Okay.
My unit shipped without a hydrophobic disc or a cotton ball in the intake, and so did one of my customers. Are they not necessary?
No, you should have gotten it. If that happened, it means it was a mistake
okay.
Here.
Mine came the same way, but I thought it was because when you put a PID in it, you can't have the cotton ball or that first hydrophobic, or is that just?
Yeah, mine don't have one either.
Neither does mine.
Hey, I had something on the charging of the unit. Have we looked into making like a USB charger? Because when we have that car charger, a lot of cars are not coming with cigarette lighters anymore. They're coming with USB ports. Also, there's like USB to cigarette. I mean, how we do it now, that I mean, it would cut our costs, I would think, to go to a USB type of charger. Then they could charge it from their computers. They could charge it from their cars and other areas. Have you seen that?
We haven't looked at that, but we can. I mean,
yeah, because that's what all your phones are. A lot of cars, and I've been in a lot of rental cars. The cigarette lighters won't even work, and some don't even have cigarette lighters. And at the same time, everything's going. It seems to be with USBs. Even your charging for your phones go from USB right into a little plug. I noticed that Ray Systems and MSA make a little plug that can go into a cigarette lighter, or just have the USB, and it seems to really have cut their costs down.
I didn't follow that last part, Rhett. What did you said it has what kind of a connection?
It's like a little cigarette lighter thing, adapter, but it has a USB plug into it. But it's an option. Our competitors they're going to USB for charging because everything's USB. And I've seen these adapters that they can go into. It's a little cheap little cigarette lighter adapter that can be bought anywhere, or USB plugs into it, or they can just plug it into their computer, or they can plug it, right into a charger, because all of your phones, everything's going to this USB adapter. I just thought it might cut our costs down on our chargers and also make us more compatible.
Well, I imagine we could get a cigarette lighter to USB adapter. What I wonder about is if the USB ports put out enough current to charge our instrument. We could look into that.
Yeah, I noticed that our competitors have it. In fact, I just saw one from Ray Systems and one from MS.
Okay, we got to know. We'll look into that. Yeah. We're going to talk, sorry, we're just taking a minute to change our setup around a little bit, and then we're going to talk about the docking station. I'm going to mostly talk about the hardware and show you the hardware, because the programs for the docking stations are not finished yet. So even though we have the hardware, we're not shipping anything until we get the programs finished. And we literally just got one of the programs and haven't even really had much time to go into it. Got it yesterday, so and we've already found a bunch of bugs in it. So I'm going to mostly show you the hardware, show how the docking stations function, talk about some of the features that they will have, and show you how they operate. So just give us 1 minute. We're getting our setup changed around.
All right.
Okay. So what we're looking from the camera now, and I'm going to show you the docking stations, what they look like. Some of you may have seen the docking stations maybe at a show, maybe not, but they're, as we talked in the beginning, you can link up to 10 docking stations together, and if you do that, you can use one demand flow regulator and one connection to a computer from the first unit, which I'm going to call the master unit as we talk about it. And so first I want to show you physically the docking station. On the left-hand side is all your inputs and controls. So the top, if you look at my finger, the top slot is for an SD card, which is where data is stored if you're using it in the standalone mode. You have a USB connection, which if you're using it in the PC mode, you would connect to your computer with that connection. You have another USB. This is just for a printer, which we have a printer that's going to be available. I don't know if you can see that. It's a pretty cool little printer. It's a battery operated printer that will print out your calibration and your bump test reports. And I'll show you how that function is controlled when we get into the units themselves. The next port is an Ethernet port, which will allow you to connect the docking station directly to a network without a PC. And I'll talk about that a little bit more later. The power switch, which just turns the unit on or off. And then there's a power connection for the power supply. One thing to note, there's two power supplies that we'll have. One of them is just if you're using a single module, and then a larger one if you have more than one module connected together. And then at the bottom are your gas and air ports. So you can see that there's 4 ports there. There's 4 ports there, 1 for air and 3 for gases. So you can actually have up to 3 different gas bottles connected at once. And then if you look at the back of the unit, there are places at the top and kind of the middle where you can actually link units together. So that if you have 10 of them connected together, you can it comes with some little brackets that will hold everything nice and snugly together. Because when you push the 2 units together, you can see on this side, there's a series of there's a connector at the bottom and then your gas connections that will daisy chain to the next unit. If you look at the opposite, oops, not that one. If you look at the opposite side, there's mating connections so that if you have multiple units together, that's how they connect together to distribute the gas, distribute the power, and flow data to the computer or to the Ethernet.
So no tubing, they just plug in, is that correct?
Yeah, right. You don't have to put any tubing on there. They plug in. And then as far as the, let's see here. For the wall mounting, yes, there's going to be we're going to have a provision for a DIN rail mount to the wall, and there's places for brackets that will allow you to do that. Female USB adapter fits into socket. What can you explain what you're asking there, Anthony? Tony? Maybe he's muted. Tony, you there?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I had to come off mute. What's the maximum that you can connect together when you daisy chain them?
Well, they daisy chain themselves. You don't have to have a separate cable from each one. So your output to the computer is from the master unit. So you only, unlike the other docking stations where you have to have multiple connections, with this one they're all connected internally if you have them banked together, and you can have up to 10.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Hey, Bruce.
So there's two different styles: a master, and then the ones that you can daisy chain together.
They're all the same. No, they're all the same physically and electrically. It's just that when you have them daisy chained together, they act a little bit differently because there's only one master. So all your connections, like if you look at this setup that we have here, where we've got two of them connected together, there's no connection to the outside world from anything past the first unit. So I'm calling this the first unit. All the connection is done between the two units automatically. So you only connect to the first unit, even if you've got 10 units set up.
Are those gas port barbs? Are they metal or are they molded plastic on that house?
They're molded plastic.
Do they look are they as flimsy as they look, or they're pretty stout? Or I mean, in other words, if you broke one off, would you ever replace that housing?
You would, but they're pretty stout. I doubt that you're going to break it unless you do something really dumb.
Well, or drop it.
Oh yeah, yeah. I suppose. I don't know. It's pretty tough material. I kind of doubt that they're going to break. And you have it's protected by this outside piece. And then you can see the filter is on that's the air intake. So you put the filter on the air intake, and then your gas bottles connect to the other three intakes. I'm going to show you how an instrument goes into the dock. Oh, let me show you one other thing while we're talking about it. So this unit, this is an expansion module. You can connect up to 3 Calib gases on one dock, but there are some versions of sensor combinations where you might need more than 3. So this is basically a solenoid valve expander that allows you to connect 6 gas bottles at once. I don't know how many combinations there are that require that. There's not very many, but there are some. So this was designed so that with any sensor combination, you can have enough gas bottles to calibrate all the sensors at once.
Show how it connects on the end there.
Yeah. So that will connect to your master unit, and then you connect your gas bottles to the side of the valve box. I'll call it the valve box.
You know, I can't see why we would ever need that unless you were not using a 4-gas mix. You get a bunch of different toxic. But a bunch, you can only have 2.
You can only have 2, yeah.
Well, if
yeah.
had one instrument that had one flavor.
And if you had Mike makes the best point, which is if you had 10 units ganged together and you had multiple combinations of sensors that you wanted to calibrate at once, that's probably when you're going to use it. Also, if you had a different LEL gas for the LEL sensor where you couldn't use a 4-gas mix, that might be handy there. But there's not a lot of places where you're going to use it because we have 3 ports on the standard unit, but it is available as an option for people that have a big fleet with a bunch of different combinations. You know, maybe a rental house would use that if they've got a lot of instruments and they're swapping sensors in and out all the time. So I'm going to show you how the instrument goes into the dock. You can put it in with the boot or without. You drop it into the base and then push down on the big red button on the top, and that locks it in place. So I'm just going to go ahead and put 2 units in here. This one doesn't have the boot on it, but it'll still go in. I'm going to go ahead and connect to my 5-gas cylinder to gas port number 1. And I'm going to go ahead and turn on the power. Maybe this is where we want to see get a little closer to the display. We're going to rearrange things so we can see the displays a little bit better.
Yeah. Which one was the master? This one here. Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. No, just the other one. Back on showing.
Can you guys see that okay?
Yes.
Okay. So you'll notice on the there's a different display on the two units. The master unit, this one here, has two buttons at the top. This is a touchscreen display. There's a function button, which is the screen that we're in right now. And then there's a unit button, which will convert it to the same display as you have on the second one there. So that's basically showing you the instrument. So I'm going to go ahead and take it out and take the instruments out and put them back in so that you can see how they automatically turn on and connect to the dock. So I put it in, I push the button down. I don't know if you could hear that, but the instrument actually turned on. So that was one of the features that you guys asked for and some of our customers asked for, which was the users not have to push any buttons when they put the unit into the dock. So we have that ability now. And you can see that it comes up and it shows you what sensor combination you have in each unit. I've got a 5-gas unit in the main dock, and I've got a 4-gas unit in the second dock. And it gives you the ability to turn the unit off. There's a button that says Detector off, so I could actually turn the instrument off using that button. I can make it active or inactive if I don't want to calibrate that particular unit or download the data. I can make it inactive if I want to just bypass it when I do a calibration. So I'm going to go back to the function screen. So this is the main screen you're going to see when you turn the unit on. So like our other docking stations, you can do a bump test, you can do a calibration. The alarm check is something that's new, and that's also something that we were asked for. That will have, if you're doing a calibration or a bump test, you can have it also do an alarm check, which will basically check to make sure that the buzzer and the vibrator and the LEDs are working. And that's something that some of our competitors had and something we were asked for. Down at the bottom of the screen, I don't know if you guys can see it, there's 4 little icons there. The first one is the SD card icon that tells me, because it's green, it tells me that my SD card is in there and it has available memory for storing data. And then you have a row of 10 buttons because you can have up to 10 connected. And the fact that they're showing highlighted means that they're turned on and that there's an instrument in that particular dock. The config button takes me into a screen where I can do the configuration of the dock. And this is where I can set my bump parameters, my calibration parameters. I can tell it what gas bottles are connected to what port. And I can set the date and time. So I'm going to show you what parameters you can set there. If I go into the bump screen, I can set the air time, I can set the gas time, I can set the air purge time, and I can also set the tolerance, which is the accuracy. I can say if I want to do an alarm check or not when I do a bump test, and I can say if I want to automatically print when I do a bump test.
So how do you
change it?
You press the button, and it'll take me to a screen where I can change it.
Okay.
The tolerance, is that standard? Is that like an industry standard, 50% tolerance?
I don't know that there is a standard. That's you can set it to whatever you want. The CSA standard is actually, what is it, Bob? Is it 10% or 20%?
The CSA is unreasonable. It's plus 10
or plus 20 and minus 0.
Yeah, nobody does that.
But I don't know that there's an industry standard for that. I don't believe there is. I think it's whatever manufacturers pick as a standard. If I go back, the little what do you call that symbol? The little arrow at the bottom takes you back one screen. That's the return, yeah. So if I go into the cal screen, same thing. I can set my air time, my gas time, or my air purge time, and I can decide if I want to do an alarm check when I do a calibration, and I can decide if I want to print it automatically. So we do have the printer connected now. Oh shoot, we forgot to show that. Oh no, that's on my computer.
Yeah,
So
sure.
I'll show you what the printout looks like in a minute. The inlet is where you tell it what gas bottles are connected to what inlet port. So I'm telling it now I've got the 5 gas mix connected to gas 1. I don't have anything connected to gas 2 because I don't need anything for the instruments that I have now. And I don't have anything connected to gas 3. But if I had an SO2 sensor, I could put that on gas 2. If I had a HCN sensor, I could put that on gas 3.
John's got a question about calibration.
Okay.
Calibration time is different on the dock than the unit.
Yes, that's correct, John. Unlike our other instruments, you can actually override what the instrument settings are with the settings on the docking station. So the docking station settings are what the unit will go by when you're doing a calibration.
So it doesn't automatically recognize what the instrument is set to?
It does, but you can override it with the settings.
Oh, okay. So
you can actually have
it should be set up for what the instrument is.
What was that, Daryl?
I said standard it would be set up for what the instrument is.
Mm-hmm. But in this case, the reason their settings are different on this now is because I've been playing around with this docking station and I've changed the settings. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go ahead and do a bump test. If you look at my bump test configuration, I do have the alarm check turned on, and now I'm going to turn on the auto print also, so it'll print out the results of my bump check. So now I'm back. Now I'm back to the main screen. So this is where I can tell it to do a bump or do a cal or do an alarm check. So I'm going to go ahead and hit bump. And it tells you what's happening in the status bar at the top. It says I'm flushing with air right now.
So Bruce,
now I'm applying the gas.
Bump test, will it calibrate it?
Couldn't hear that.
If it automatically fills a bump test, will it calibrate it?
That's a setting in the bump test parameters. You can either do that or not do that. And you can see on the screen on the right that the readings are changing now because we've got gas flowing to the 2 instruments. If I hit the unit screen, I can see what the unit in dock number 1 is doing. So you can see we got a pass on all sensors. It finished the air purge. Now I had the alarm check. So you can see that it went ahead and checked both units and did both a bump test and alarm check. Yeah, for some reason this second one, I think there's something wrong with the vibrator in this second one because it keeps failing the vibration test. And it automatically printed out a report on the printer, that little printer that I had connected to it.
Bruce, is that thermal paper or ink paper? What is that?
What is it thermal, Mike? Yeah, it's a thermal printer. And if you look at the computer screen on the GoToMeeting screen, you can see what the printout looks like. So this is a nice, small, compact, battery-operated printer. So I think it's going to be a nice addition. I know we've had customers who've asked us for that too. So once I hit, it'll stay on this screen until I hit end, whether I do a bump or a calibration, and then it'll go back to the home screen and it's ready to do something else.
So just calendar is something other than the sensors fail.
Yeah, if it passes the calibration, it'll reset the calendar. If say the vibrator fails, it's still going to pass the calibration and update the date and time.
Question, Bruce, on the printout, does it tell the serial number of the unit?
It does.
Okay.
There you can see it on the screen. It gives you the serial number, the date and time, what was tested, and whether or not it passed or failed.
Just under the model at the top. Go over there.
Yeah, I saw that. They looked like they were the same number, so that's the only reason I was asking.
Oh, yeah.
We just cut. This was one we did before, and we just cut it and scanned it in so that we could make a nice picture of what was on there.
Test, and the other one's a calibration.
Yeah. So you can see this one's a bump test. This is a calibration test. It passed. Yeah. Here's the date and time it was tested, the serial numbers, and the test results. The asterisks are because these two units actually had other sensors in there that we didn't test for that test, so it won't show them. And then it shows you that we did an alarm check and that it passed all three functions.
If someone wanted this so that they could print a label that would stick on the instrument for calibration, would that printer be able to do that as well?
I don't think so. No, it's not that type of printer. You could probably get a different printer that would do that. But we haven't actually looked for that yet.
Yeah, it's no worries.
So can I just push the alarm check and the cal and it'll automatically do both of them, or do I have to go hit one and then wait for it to cycle and then hit the other one?
No, if you have it set up if you remember in the screen where I was doing the configuration for the bump and cal,
right,
there's a setting for auto alarm check. So if you have that selected, then it'll automatically do the alarm check when you do the calibration or when you do the bump test. If you don't have that selected, then you've got to do it manually from the main screen.
So I can do all three actually. I could do a bump, a cal, and an alarm check.
Well, you can't do. It'll only do a bump, a cal, and alarm check if you do a bump and it fails the bump.
Right.
But you can do a bump and an alarm check or a cal and an alarm check together automatically.
Okay. Okay.
Very nice.
I'm not gonna go into the software a lot right now because there's a lot of bugs in it. It's not really very functional. But all three softwares that we're going to have for this unit, the data logging software is identical to the data logging softwares for the 2009 and the 2012 and the Eagle 2. The standalone software, the only difference between it and our standalone software that we do now is that you import the data from an SD card rather than from a USB drive. And you also have the ability, if the unit is connected to the Ethernet, you can actually import the data from the Ethernet. So you can be on a network and import data from cal stations that are all over the place. But that's not working yet, so I can't show you that yet. We're probably going to do another session on the cal station when we get ready to release it and when we have all the software bugs worked out.
How much?
What was that? The cost?
Yes.
Just over $2,000.
It's going to be around $2,000 for the station. And I don't remember what the valve box. How much did we come up with a price for that yet?
I don't remember.
And with the station, you're going to get the single power adapter. Well, we'll offer the station in a couple of different ways. You can get it with a single power adapter, in which case it comes with an SD card and also the USB cable to go to the computer, and then the single power supply. And then we'll also offer it without a power supply and without the USB cable, so that if you want to gang multiple units together, because you don't need those two things, and then you would have a different power supply that's the larger one that would handle anywhere